You namaste and welcome, everyone. As I said, this is our Memorial Day anniversary program for the 125th anniversary of the founding of the Vedanta Society of Northern California, San Francisco, by Swami Vivekananda, the exemplar of Vedanta in the West, who spoke at the Parliament of Religions in 1893 and revolutionized for the modern era spirituality in the world. We're very proud that we're able to host this for a beautiful, beloved community. My name is Bobby Coleman. I'm active as a student in the Vedanta Society of Northern California. Our program today involves a morning session followed by a light lunch and an afternoon session. We're starting on time, which is a delight. And we'll have a welcome address by Swami Tattwamayananda, and then a talk by Swami Tattwamayananda on Swami Vivekananda and Vedanta in the Bay Area, a retrospective view of 125 years. That will be followed. Each talk will last around 40 minutes. There might be discussion amongst the Swamis. We'll see what happens spontaneously. The second address this morning is by revered Swami Chettanandaji, how Ramakrishna's message encircled the globe. And the third will be Pravrajika Brahmaprana's Women Pioneers of the Vedanta Movement in Northern California. Then that will be, as I said, followed by a light lunch, and then the afternoon program with music. There'll be devotional music from the Vedanta Society's bhajan group, and then talks by Swami Atmarupananda, Swami Shantanatmanda, and devotional music by Kaila. I'll introduce that. Swami Vedananda will conclude. So that's our plan. I just wanted to say that Memorial Day is the perfect opportunity for remembering what's important. With the things that come and go in all of our lives, Memorial Day is not just the activation of memory in specific ways, but also the start of the summer season, break for many families in America to start whatever their summer plans are as students wrap up the school year. Yesterday, we heard from remarkable speakers, devotees, younger people, older people, professional, start of career, very diverse, very wonderful. And today we get to hear from the seasoned people of monastic order to deepen our understanding of our spiritual lives. And hopefully you'll have a very inspiring time, but you'll also receive things that will rest well in your memory as tools for a happy, healthy life. So with that, I invite the Swamis and speakers up to the stage, and then Swami Prapananda will give the welcome address. Thank you. Swami Vivekananda was a giant intellect, consummately educated, and full of questions, curiosity, and even doubts about spiritual life. He flowered before the world's eyes, and the fact that he founded this society 125 years ago is a remarkable and inspiring story, because for all students of Vedanta or spiritual inquirers of any kind, from any tradition, Swami Vivekananda shows that there is a path And with the right guru and the right open-heartedness and the right willingness to follow that path, certitude, strength, vigor, and impact are possible. So when I first came to the Vedanta Society, the next speaker showed me an example of that, which is indelibly accurate. And I'll let his his words speak for itself, but it's my pleasure now to describe the next speaker, Swami Tattwamayananda ji, the minister in charge of the Vedanta Society of Northern California, San Francisco. He has been in that position since 2014. Previously, Swamiji was a teacher at the Ramakrishna Order's Monastic Probationers Training Center. It's not that kind of probation. At headquarters in Kolkata, India. A scholar in Sanskrit, Vedic studies, and Indian philosophy, he's taught Hindu and Buddhist scriptures, as well as having served as editor, publisher, and writer in various capacities in the order. He came to the U.S. in 2012 as assistant minister of the San Francisco Vedanta Society. And I believe that his enthusiasm for that position, which might have been in question in the beginning, has grown year by year. So we're very pleased that he's here. And with that, I fall to the podium, Swami Tattwamayananda ji.
My pranams to all the revered Swamijis, Swami Chetanananda ji, Paramananda ji, Prabhupada Brahma Prana Maharaji, and all the revered Swamijis who are seated here, and all my namaskar and greetings and good morning to all the friends, well-wishers, and many of you must have been attending this Memorial Day for the last several years. So I want to welcome you all and thank you for being here. It's a very interesting subject. That is the subject Swami Vivekananda and Vedanta in the Bay Area in a retrospective view of 125 years. Today, if you visit any parts of the United States and if you happen to address an educated adult audience and tell them that my religion is only your religion is wrong, your God is devil, my God is the only God, people will laugh at you. And that is the greatness and glory of this country. Many of you who may not be familiar with the philosophical, cultural, religious landscape of the United States, when Swamiji landed here in 1893 to attend the Parliament of Religion, those of you who are not familiar with that background may not be able to imagine or guess that it's all because of Vivekananda. Because the Western world, for the first time in its history, listened to the idea that all religions are equally valid paths leading to the same goal. Every religion is true if you are a sincere, honest believer, if you live a good life, a sincere life, if you have compassion towards your fellow human beings, then you can reach God even if you don't worship Him in a temple or a church. I'm reminded of a very powerful statement that comes from Swamiji. God will, you live your life in such a way that God will accept you, even if you don't accept God. So you live your life in such a way, then God will accept you if you are a good human being. You may not worship God in a temple or a church. You may not read a scripture. You may be an agnostic like Buddha was, one of the greatest spiritual personalities the world has ever witnessed. God will accept you if you live a good life. So the essence of spirituality is becoming a good human being. Now this is very, very relevant. See, look at the time when Swamiji came. The last of the transcendentalists already passed away. But still, Emerson, Thoreau, and Whitman, the theosophical movement, faith healings, many of the great ideas that were coming from Europe and elsewhere were already influencing some of the elite educated people in the East Coast. And they were looking for something transcendental, something universal, something that is purely humanistic. That to think of the time, Swamiji was going to Scottish Church College or Presidency College in the early 1870s, maybe a little later. He was going to Presidency College in even in 1881, around that time. And R.C. Majumdar, one of the well-known historians of India, advanced history of India, one of the important foundational books on Indian historiography, he says students used to carry with them a copy of the original species and Communist Manifesto. Not that they ever read it, but they wanted to pretend to be highly intellectual, liberal minded. Remember, that was long before the terrible thing called the Bolshevik Revolution took place, that is 1970, which Marx were have totally disowned, in fact. Now, R.C. Majumdar says that is a time when, even in India, traditional conservative Hindus were looking for something universal. It is much more so in Europe and in the east coast of America. Especially the east coast was exposed to the great ideas floating from across the Atlantic more than other parts of the United States. Swamiji came at a time when people were looking for something humanistic, universal, liberating, something that is spiritual, but not necessarily religious. And Swamiji comes to this country and he says, religion is not rituals, mythologies, and belief systems. Religion is spirituality. Religion is a manifestation of divinity already in man, in Swamiji's language. Now, this was actually a very radical idea. Those of you who won't understand the times in which Swamiji came here, people are fed up with the many of the ideas mentioned in many of the foundational books of established religious traditions. And then Swamiji came and said, you should be a good human being and you can be spiritual. And Swamiji frequently mentioned Buddha as a great example. Buddha did not believe in a created God. And everyone understands him as one of the greatest spiritual human beings the world has ever witnessed. So now that Vivekananda came to this Vedanta society, this part of the United States in 1900. And here he met great Americans, prominent Americans like Milburn Logan, Miss Hansborough, Ida Ansel, Bertha Patterson, Agnes Stanley, a number of other educated Americans. Some of them had already listened to Swamiji's lectures in the Chicago Parliament region. And he came to this part of this country, to the Bay Area, what we now call Bay Area, which was not a Bay Area at that time as we understand it today. It was not the most happening place in the United States as it is today. Swamiji came here, went to different places, Auckland, and then uh, even close to this Olema retreat, Samuel Taylor Park, he stayed 15 days there. He stayed, taught, meditated, and instructed and inspired devotees, American men, American women. And then what happened was he was giving a series of lectures in San Francisco. It was called Vedanta class. And on April 14, 1900, Swamiji formally inaugurated what we now call the Vedanta Society of Northern California, San Francisco. And that Vedanta class later became Vedanta Society of Northern California, San Francisco. And then Swamiji did something much more consequential in terms of the history of Vedanta Society. When he was in New York, one prominent American lady, Miss Burke, donated a land of nearly 200 acres in San Antonio Valley, and Swamiji delegated one of his fellow disciples, Sri Ramakrishna's disciple, one of his brother disciples, Swami Tiriyanandaji, to come to this part of this country and take over that land. And Swami Tiriyananda landed here in 1900s. Now you have to remember the way Americans received this Swami, this Turiyananda. Turiyananda was a very traditional monk. Swamiji was a well-educated, in a way, a kind of Anglophile person. You know, Calcutta at that time, the last 2 decades of 19th century was a place where the elite, educated people were proud of quoting Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats, and Spencer, and others. And from that community, Swami Turiyanandaji came, was a very, very traditional monk. Swamiji delegated him to come here and take responsibility for building what later became the first Hindu monastery outside Asian continent. It's called Shanti Ashrama. When he came here, what happened? A large number of American men and women flocked around him, and he took them to San Antonio Valley, very remote place. Even now, there is no electricity, there is no water. And every year, in memory of that ancient monastery, we conduct a retreat every year. This year, it was on April 26th, last month. Now, Priyanandaji built a monastery there. Now, all these men and women, some of them had already listened to Swamiji's lectures in Chicago, who still remembered Swami Vivekananda's words. He became a celebrity overnight because of his oratorical skills and spiritual personality. And they accompanied Swami Turiyananda. They went there, they built cabins, wooden cabins, they dug a well, they started cooking, they started learning under Swami Turiyananda, who taught them some of the very, very traditional scriptures like Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Viveka Chudamani, and other books. Now, this continued for less than 2 years. In in the month of June 1902, 1902, Swami Turiyanandaji left for India, and in 1903, January 2nd, another Swamiji came to San Francisco. His name was Swami Tattwamayananda. Now, look at the journey of this organization. Swami Tattwamayananda, if you can see his picture, he was a bearded monk with a stick, walking all around Himalayas, including Tibet, with disabled hair, very, very traditional mendicant. Those of you who have read books in the Way of a Pilgrim, you know, that humble pilgrim that in the Russian Orthodox tradition, one of the well-known books is the Way of a Pilgrim, wandering all over the landscape with the disabled hair and beard, a stick. That was the kind of life that Swami Tattwamayananda was living in India. And he came to San Francisco. And here, what he did, he built the first Hindu temple, not only in the United States, but outside Asian continent. the Hindu temple of San Francisco is completed in 1905 and dedicated in 1906, January 7th. This Swami was not just an ordinary monk. In India, he was a wandering monk, like a beggar walking everywhere. Highly educated man, very intelligent, very dynamic, which all later became obvious when he came to this country. And that Swami, who was wandering all over Himalayas, including Tibet, came to San Francisco and he became a great dynamic monk. If you read the life of Swami Tattwamayananda, as he went about building the first Hindu temple, reorganizing Vedanta society, starting a press and publication, one of the one of the earliest publications in America. He published an edition of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna in 1912. It was printed and published in the first Hindu temple in San Francisco. So you can imagine reorganization of the Vedanta society, and then starting a press, training, inspiring and teaching disciples, American disciples. Remember, today you can find there is a huge Indian diaspora. If an Indian Swami comes to America, he can eat masala dosa without any difficulty. That was a time Swami Tattwamayananda, if you look at his life, he brought vegetable seeds, thinking that vegetable is not available in California. California richer than India, even vegetable. If you just think of the fertility of the soil, virgin soil. And that Swami did this gigantic work, and something much more happened. He completed this temple and it was dedicated in 1906, January 7th. It took less than 5 months for him to complete this temple. We took almost 3 years to renovate that temple in the 21st century, from 2014 end to 2017. And then he passed away in 1915. There's a very interesting aspect about this Swami. You can read Swami Radhayanji's life by Swami Radhayananda. In 1906, as I mentioned, this temple was dedicated. And in the month of April, I believe, there was a huge earthquake and the San Francisco fire, which almost killed more than 2,000 people. When this happened, this temple was one of the few buildings that remained intact. The wind brought the flame very close to the temple. Then the wind took a different direction. You may call it a miracle. Miracle is defined in Catholic tradition as a divine intervention. So that there's no other word to call this interesting incident. And here is something more about Shanti Asrama that's very similar to this. Shanti Asrama had about 14 or 15 wooden cabins built at the time of Swami Turiyanandaji, who left for India in 1902. And Swami Turiyanandaji uh, continued to teach there. He'll be going, he'll go to Shanti Asrama from San Francisco from time to time with a number of devotees, inspiring them, teaching them, introducing them to Indian spiritual life. And it so happened that in 1952, there's a huge California fire. All the wooden cabins were burnt to ashes, except the small, tiny shrine building. It's not a building, really speaking, it's a wooden cabin. That alone remains intact from 1900 to our own times. So, now one here is about something very important. What aspect of Vivekananda's philosophy did they represent and teach? One thing that struck Americans with wonder was neither Swami Tiriyananda or Tirunadyananda ever asked them to convert to Christianity. There is a well-known series of reminiscences by Sarah French, which is not yet published. It said that some devotees coming to old temple asked the Swami, "We want to become Hindus." So they were familiar with this interesting, the practice of converting from one religion to another religion. Then Swami Tattwamayananda said, "From where can I convert to where?" He said, "You go deeper into your own tradition, then you find the diamonds and jewels in your own tradition. That's Vedanta." So Vedanta is the most universal, most humanistic, the most uh, appealing aspect of any religious philosophy. Vedanta is present everywhere. Swamiji's own quotation I may give here. From the highest rise of uh, atheism to lowest heights of agnosticism and nihilism, each and all have a place in Hindu's faith. Swamiji says, one context he says, from the highest place of Vedanta philosophy, the lowest fetishism, the the levels of agnosticism and atheism all have a place in Hindu religion. He says Vedanta is the highest flight, the highest reach of Hindu spiritual evolution. When or wherever it is, a human being prays to God with all sincerity, with all honesty, with all purity, he can experience the presence of the divine spark within himself, within herself. And that is the essence of Vedanta. So this concept of harmony that you find in the teachings, in the letters, in also in the well-known uh, uh, talks of both Swami Turiyanandaji and Swami Tattwamayananda. This concept of harmony and synthesis. And Swamiji's one important message of Swamiji is very relevant to Bay Area today. Swami Vivekananda said that what we need today is a harmony of head, heart, and hand. And he also mentioned there should be a proper harmonization, a friction free harmonization or synthesis of the best of the Occidental, the Western, and also the best of the spiritual and Eastern. Of course, in today's conditions, don't misunderstand. You cannot draw a line of demarcation between the East and West. The world has become one. If you go to India, you find more materialism than in America. So and don't ever imagine that all America are materialists, all Indians are meditating and merging samadhi. Nothing of the kind. The idea is this: according to traditional, perspectives, East is supposed to be associated with spirituality. Swamiji is not responsible for that. Some of the earlier writings, some of the early publications of Harvard oriented series beginning with 1850s, their translations and publications of the Buddhist scriptures and Hindu scriptures created this impression that the East is the repository of spirituality, the West is the repository of scientific temper and technology. Not, of course, it is totally irrelevant in today's conditions. But I'm just quoting Swamiji. What Swamiji meant was that there should be a proper harmony, a friction-free synthesis of the best of the traditional and the best of the modern. Now, you can find little bit of that in today's Bay Area. You can find great executives, both Americans, Indians, and people from all over the world. They practice meditation. At least they feel a need for something, for thinking of something other than money, food, and technology. Technology and science can give us power, comforts, communication, the explosive developments in communications, in technology, transportation. These are wonderful gifts of nature coming through science, but they cannot give us lasting peace. Sometimes we have to think of something beyond material success. Success becomes really successful only if we can enjoy the fruits of success. If a person works hard to make money, builds an empire of industry and commerce, becomes the most the richest executive, but still he has to take 4 pills to get for 2 hours sleep every day. Their life is not a big success. So Swamiji mentions that along with the positive aspects of Western culture and also the positive uh, gifts of science and technology, we should also bringing the concept of spirituality. So one important message is very, very important in today's conditions. I'm just telling you something about in my own life. When I was a student in the early 70s, 1970s, we used to study in a school, and we used to be guided by teachers to walk in a straight line from school to a home nearby. Now, at that time in the 70s, you can imagine, we could frequently see large number of Westerners, mostly Americans, long beard with a guitar. You know, sometimes they will be in some kind of influence or some transcendental drugs or whatever it is, and so small little children used to throw little stones at them and run away. You can imagine in the streets, large number of uh, Westerners, all well dressed, mostly lying in the street, mm, dusty streets, with a guitar, some rudraksha, traditional hair, and small little children used to throw little stones, pebbles, and run away. And they were amused. They used to make some gestures to amuse the children. And teachers told those children, look, you don't do that. They're all highly educated people. They are all coming to this country in search of spirituality. Maybe that was the time hippism was under rage at that time. So they were going to Himalaya, they were to Rishikesh, they were going to Uttarakhand, other places. They were highly educated people. They are holding big high proficiency in America and other countries. They are coming here to learn yoga, meditation, things like that. So you should never disrespect them. Small little children, they are of mischief, seeing the strange people, they used to. Point is, today you see a different picture. Today, sometimes you find young Indians coming to this country, and again, another incident I can mention in San Francisco Vedanta Temple. It happened almost a year ago. Uh, an Indian devotee came, a young man, an IT professional. He was well dressed for the temple, for it. And uh, he was introduced. He went to the temple, he attended the prayer, Vesper service. Then he left. After a month, he reappeared. This time, he was wearing only half trouser, a t-shirt, and most of his exposed part of the body was full of tattoos. And he had a dog. He was kept outside the temple. Fortunately, he did not bring it inside the temple. Now, we can imagine the other example, other side. Sometimes we feel so people, well-educated young Indians coming to this country, and when they are asked by the professors, when they're studying universities, have you read yoga, Bhagavad Gita? And we don't know anything about it. Some of our professors who are from our own friends frequently tell me when we ask them the question, people who are from Chennai have never even heard of Ramana Maharshi. People who are from maybe living GT Road have never gone to Belur Math, never even heard of Vivekananda Ramakrishna Paramahansa. So we often tell them, you should learn something about your own culture, your own tradition. Then only Americans will respect you. If you come here and say, no, we don't know anything about India, want to be like you, do you think Americans are going to respect you? Every country has its own genius, its own unique contribution that it could make to the totality of human civilization. America has its own spiritual aristocracy, intellectual aristocracy, its own pedigree. So also India. So Swamiji mentioned that every nation, every race, every culture has some unique contribution of its own with which it enriches the totality of human civilization. And in today's world, the world has become one. I think the Bay Area, in many ways, will tell you that Swamiji's arrow has hit the target. What we need today is a harmonious blending of the best elements of Western culture. Then Swamiji gives a list: leadership skills, organization skills, innovation, the ability to take risk, scientific, the sanctity and sacredness of human family values, how children should respect the parents, grandparents, how grandparents and parents should take care of children properly. The sanctity and sacredness of family values. In a way, at least traditionally used to be somewhat better in the East, used to be better than what it is now. Swamiji wanted this unique harmony. He was a prophet of harmony. If you can call him anything, Swami Vivekananda was the prophet of harmony. That harmony sometimes you find in the Bay Area. There are many Indians who have learned the art of organization, planning, uh, leadership skills, working hard, perfect coordination and unity for a common goal. All these values which have strengthened and enriched Western civilization. And many Americans also have learned sanctity and sacredness of family values, and also great spiritual traditions that coming from the East, like meditation, prayer, and things like that. So, in a way, Swamiji's prophecy that one day the world will become a unique example of harmony. Harmony of the best of science and technology on the one hand, spirituality on the other, and harmony of the best in cultural values, the best is the cultural values of the East. Vivekananda has left behind this unique legacy, the legacy of harmony. I mean, the world is one, spiritually, the world is one. That's one of the important message of Vivekananda. It is mentioned in ancient scriptures like Mahabharata, Ekam Sat Vipra Bhaguda Vadanti, Vasudhaiva Kudumbagam. All these are terms that tell you that the entire humanity is one spiritual family. So Swamiji, in modern times, he said that humanity is one humanity is one spiritual family. So we can have this mutual enrichment, mutual accommodation, best of the Eastern with the best of the uh, Western. Unfortunately, it may be wrong if I leave it unsaid. Frequently, people try to harmonize the worst of the East, the worst of the West of the West. That also happens. In terms of family values, they follow the Western. In terms of organization, they follow the Eastern. Remember, when I talk about the Eastern, you remember Japan is a great example of organization, unity, efficiency. I'm talking about that. What I mean to say, Swamiji wanted a positive, a friction-free blending of the best of the Occidental in culture, in tradition, in religion, spirituality, with the best of the Oriental. That was Swamiji's message. I think it is happening today. After Swami Tattwamayananda, there are other great Swamis who worked in the Vedanta Society. Swami Madhavananda, Swami Dayananda, and later Swami Ashokananda, who was actually instrumental in developing this Olema retreat, and then Lake Tahoe, and then the convents. These are all great contributions of Swami Ashokananda. Prabhupada also continued the same tradition, and we are trying to practice, continue the same legacy. And along the way, San Francisco Vedanta Society also was instrumental in building some branch centers in the Bay Area, like Berkeley Vedanta Society, Sacramento Vedanta Society. So you can imagine Shanti Ashrama, Old Temple, Olema Retreat, Lake Tahoe is another retreat center. New Temple, it was inaugurated in 1959. Swami Ashokananda was the one who was instrumental in building the new temple. So practically, it continues to be a source of inspiration. But the very fact that you all come here, remember, you all come here to listen to this, to be part of this program itself, is a testimony to the great work that by the grace of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother and Swamiji that we are able to continue. And again, I want to thank you again to be part of this event. We had a very long, momentous journey. 125 years is a very long period in American context, but a very tiny dot in Indian context. Because Vedanta and Hinduism is 6,000 years old. You can see there's an inscription on the Filbert Street entrance of Old Temple. Ekam Sat Vipra Bhagudha Vadanti. It's from Rigveda Samhita, 164th Sukta. I mean, God is one, reality is one, sages call it by different names. So that statement goes back to 6th millennium BC, and we have done only for the last 125 years. Can imagine the antiquity of Vedanta and also its modernity. It is so ancient, still so modern, because from time to time, a great scholar, a great saint, a great prophet will appear. He will bring from the ancient past the best of the legacy, the tradition, the heritage. He'll practice in his own life, then he'll reinterpret it and give to modern times. Swami Vivekananda is the prophet of harmony who came to the Bay Area bringing this ancient legacy. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Swami Tattwamayananda ji. I think in that 125-year retrospective of Swami Vivekananda and Vedanta in the Bay Area, you partially answered the question that new guests and new friends of ours ask, as I heard yesterday from a new visitor. What is Vedanta? And your reference to the Rig Veda Samhita goes a long way to answering that question, as does the content of all the addresses you're going to hear today. Regarding the history of the 125 years of the society, which is, one of our focuses today, here's a wonderful exhibit over there in the side tent. It shows photographs and a timeline of all of this wonderful history, which we're so proud of. It's also, of course, a bookshop. And for more questions about Vedanta and Lost and Found, there's the information tent. That actually is a reminder for me to express some gratitude for the very tent that we're in, which was erected by hand by volunteers and devotees of this society, many of whom are ushering here today. So I want to thank them as well. It's a big job, but we're very happy you're here. Um, Swami Tattwamayananda, I wanted to ask you a brief question. My handheld isn't working, so I may have to ask it right now. The the way that we arrive here in Olema takes us through Samuel P. Taylor Park, where Camp Irving was the site of Swamiji's instructions to those early American students of Vedanta in April 1900. Women and men, people like Alice Hansbrough and the others, were there on the site, so close to where we are today. And because many of us arrived on that very road where Swamiji and those acolytes took the train, I hope that you'll maybe make mention of what that resonance is on this holy ground. Please.
Of course, I spoke a bit too fast because I wanted to finish as much ground as possible. Many of you, of course, all of you must have passed through the Samuel Taylor Park, about 5 miles away from here. Swami Vivekananda came there in month of October 1900, and he spent almost 15 days there. And we stayed. Swamiji taught the meditation. Swamiji gave lessons on Hindu scriptures, from Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Sutras, and different books. Mostly, Swamiji was giving extramural classes, giving instruction on meditation and practical aspects of spiritual discipline. Swamiji did. So it is a thrilling experience to feel that maybe Vivekananda must have uh, through these grounds, we do not know. At that time, an American family was living in the mandatory house that we later acquired when Ashokananji bought this place. That it was from the owner of that building, mandatory house, that we bought this land. So it is a thrilling experience to remember that Vivekananda came very close to where we are sitting right now and conducting this program. So this kind of, this unique connection, maybe this place still has something to do with that ancient legacy coming from Swamiji. Thank you.